Hello there coworkers, and welcome back to another episode of Salmon Report on the week of 5th of December to the 12th, being possibly one of the most hyped weeks we've got for Salmon Run in a while. First of all, excuse me for missing last week. There was a lot to cover and talk about, and so I missed out on Salmon Report, but it's now back in full power. Before we get started, if you do love Salmon Report, make sure to follow me on Twitter or join our community Discord that's in the description too for additional updates and to play together with your fellow coworkers. Now let's dive in. This week is incredibly exciting as it is the debut of the brand new Splatoon event Big Run happening at the end of this week. The rotations will be Marooner's Bay with a Splooshomatic, Big Swig Roller, Ballpoint Splatling and the Gootuber, Gunfish and Hydroplant with the Splat Dualies, Mini Splatling, H3 Nuzzle Nose and the brand new Snipe Rider 5 Age, Spawning Grounds with the Splashomatic, Gluga Dualies, the Bamboozler and the Tentombrella, and finally it is here. From December 10th to the 12th, it is Big Run weekend with the Battle for Wahoo World combined with a special wildcard weekend that looks to be all random weapons for now, but who knows what secrets they have for us. Apart from Big Run, the Marooner's Bay rotation this week is also incredibly good and potentially a prime opportunity for everyone to reach Executive VP 999 if you were ever interested in it, since the weapon composition for it is amazing that you don't see often. So the first rotation on the new Marooner's Bay, definitely the best rotation this week with having both the Splooshomatic and the Ballpoint Splatling in a single rotation, and as much as the Big Swig isn't that fantastic, I think it will be a great support weapon next to those two giants. First, the Splooshomatic is the best shooter you can get in Salmon Run, pretty much. It has unbelievably good damage, burst, and mobility that allows it to handle both lesser hordes and all bosses pretty safely. With being one of the best DPS in Salmon Run overall, if you ever get the Splooshomatic, your primary objective is to splat big shots spawning immediately, as you are by far the best weapon for this job. This very same DPS also makes the Splooshomatic one of the best weapons against Kohazuna, right behind the Dapple Dualies and the Hydra Splatling, so make sure to shoot Kohazuna as much as possible if you do get it. This weapon really doesn't have any noticeable weaknesses, it's just an incredibly good carry weapon, but its short range might have you struggle against fish sticks or steelheads, but that is exactly why you have the Gootuber and the Ballpoint Splatling in the rotation. For the second weapon, we have the brand new Big Swig Roller, and I already talked about it in my video reviewing the new weapons. It is a roller that tries to combine mobility and range at the same time, so it's a hybrid between the Carbon Roller and the Flingza Roller, but with the painting of a Dynamo Roller. Damage-wise, it's possibly the weakest roller, so I recommend staying close to your coworkers and support them instead. Fling that roller, paint for your team, and weaken hordes so it's easier to splat them for everyone else. As I said, it has the painting of the Dynamo Roller with almost the speed of a Carbon Roller, so your primary job will be to paint as much as possible and make sure your friends always have enough room to walk around. Sadly, your rolling does not split chums and both of you will bounce back, but remember that Glowfly Rush Wave chums have less health and you will be able to use your roller with slow roll in that wave pretty much to carry alone, especially with the incapacity that the Big Swig Roller has. Then the Ballpoint Splatling, the best Splatling you can get and learn in Salmon Run that is known for its double firing mode, the burst fire and the normal long range fire. I have a 1-minute guide for this weapon specifically that if you watch you'll know everything to know about this weapon, but the TLDR is that you have to master its charge mechanic that you can recharge even during firing to control whether you want to use its maximum DPS burst fire for close range and damage, or you want to stay in long range mode for far away targets. If you learn to use the Ballpoint Splatling, there's nothing you cannot do with this weapon, just watch your incapacity. Last, the Gootuber, which I always thought would be the weakest charger for Salmon Run. Now I'm not sure with the Snipe Rider around. Its specialty is that it can hold charges while swimming that gives it some mobility and versatility to move around, but sadly this niche isn't that useful in Salmon Run in my experience, so it falls behind the rest of the chargers. It charges slower than the others, but its partial charges have pretty good damage, so I recommend practicing in the firing range to learn the damage threshold for all targets that they require. Chargers can be hard to use, but remember that despite the average reputation, chargers are excellent horde clearers. Just start practicing full charges that shoot through all targets in a line and support your team against steelheads so they don't have to worry about them either. After Marooner's Bay, we're traveling to Gunfish and Hydroplant on the 7th to the 9th of December with an also not so bad rotation. The Splat Dualies are an excellent all-rounder gun, not quite as powerful as the Dapple Dualies, but they're right up there in versatility to handle pretty much all situations and bosses. As always, remember to roll to increase your damage, but this rotation especially, you should be focusing on clearing as many lesser salmonids and quahawks as you can for the other weapons that might struggle against them, especially the Nuzzlenose and the Snipe Rider, as those weapons are much better against bosses. It might be tempting to just go for bosses, but remember that weapons have roles and you have to work together to bring out the best of each of them. Next to the Splat Dualies, the other weapon responsible for lessers and mobility will be the Mini Splatling. It's the fastest Splatling, which allows for greater mobility and aggression, so you can also safely do shore runs with it. And what I always liked about this weapon is that it has most of the great aspects of all Splatlings for damage, decent range, and control. As I mentioned, focus on clearing lesser salmonids and help where it is needed, but your weakness is that it runs out of ink in no time without you ever noticing. So make sure you recharge your ink tank every second or so charged to make sure you are always safe. Ink management is pretty much the trick to use the Mini properly, and if you master that, you'll unlock its true strength. The H3 Nuzzlenose is also back, and as I always say, it's a very powerful shooter, but since it has its burst firing niche, it struggles a bit in Salmon Run. Its damage is one of the best among shooters to handle bosses, and thanks to its range, it can do so from afar while staying safe. Unfortunately, its burst fire also leaves openings between its shots, and it leaves it vulnerable against lesser hordes and being overwhelmed. There are tricks to overcome this by flinging your weapon left and right while shooting to make sure your shots are spread, but it's a technical and a bit tiresome habit to get used to that makes it very uncomfortable to use this weapon in my opinion. Help your team the most by taking care of long-range targets such as stingers on the shore, steelheads, and fish sticks, and since we are on Hydroplant, the stage is on your side, and as long as you stay on the walls, you will pretty much reach anywhere with your gun. Last year, the Snipe Rider 5H, the brand new charger introduced with Chill Season. Its niche is gaining 5 full charge shots upon charging up, with each of them dealing 180 damage, which is nothing to scoff at and makes it a very good boss splatter on demand. Basically, you charge up your gun relatively fast and you can destroy 2 bosses in your range immediately with those charges without any trouble, and since you can move pretty fast as well, you can be an on-demand boss splatter for the whole team. The problem is that I think the Snipe Rider gives up too much for this ability. Chargers are already good boss splatters, but the Snipe Rider gives away full charge piercing, and that leaves it very vulnerable to lesser salmonids and hordes, which is why the other weapons should focus on clearing them as much as possible. You have to play very safely with this weapon and possibly close to a teammate to be safe, and for best results, don't waste too much time on lessers and go straight for bosses. The third rotation on the 9th to the 10th of December, we are back on spawning grounds with a pretty technical and potentially dangerous shift for freelance. The Splashomatic is an easy-to-use jack-of-all-trades shooter that no one will really have trouble with. It can handle all bosses easily and has good painting along with good mobility. The usual issue with the Splashomatic is that it's often confused with the Splooshomatic because of the same name, but it's nowhere near as strong, so you should absolutely not overestimate its damage. Stay safe and at range, and if you play safely without ramboing, you will be just fine. This rotation, your job is to paint as much as you can for the other weapons and clear those lesser salmonids, as the other weapons will be struggling a lot with them. Sure, the Tent Umbrella is also here, but most players have trouble playing with that weapon too, and so the primary lesser slayer will be the Splashomatic. Next weapon is the Glooga Dualies, the long-range dualie variant that excels at firepower and range but gives up its versatility and fire rate for it. It's excellent DPS for bosses and Kohozuna, but its weakness is its less than satisfactory painting, and because it has very slow fire rate, it also gets overwhelmed quickly and struggles against lesser salmonids. Your priority is to deal with long-range bosses as usual, such as big shots, stingers, and steelheads, and remember to roll with dualies as they massively increase your damage, especially for this Glooga Dualie. In panic situations when you can't paint, also remember that dualies can roll through salmonid ink without getting slowed down, which is one of the best escape tools in the game. Now, the Bamboozler in my opinion is the best charger for Salmon Run, but it's also the hardest weapon to learn at the same time. It has very good mobility and versatility that allows it to be present in all situations and shifts, and also handle both lessers and bosses very well. To do so, you have to master its partial charges. As for tap firing to half or even full charges, each of them are important in dealing with different enemies fast depending on which one is needed. Support your Glooga against long-range targets, especially steelheads, but your partial charges can destroy stingers very fast too. I recommend practicing in the firing range to get a feeling how much you should partially charge or charge against different salmonid targets. Last, the Tent Umbrella, another heavy, slow, and hard weapon to learn overall, not just for PvP, but also for Salmon Run. This weapon is actually very powerful with its normal shots against bosses, but its Brella Canopy is also one of the best lesser clearers in the whole mode. Your primary weakness is going to be running out of ink all the time, so you have to choose your fight very well and make sure you always have space to retreat to. But if that's secured, you have excellent DPS to handle big health targets, and shooting out your shield will clear salmonid hordes or even whole glowfly waves by itself in no time. As all Brellas, also remember that your shield can be used for protection and damage at the same time by bumping into enemies with them while firing, and against steelheads or flyfish you can use the canopy to shield yourself and allies from damage. And so we have arrived to the weekend of December 10th to 12th, where the first big run of Splatoon 3 will debut on the PvP map of Wahoo World. As it appears in the current shift reports, Big Run shall be a wildcard weekend, meaning all weapons are going to be random during the event, and anything goes. But it isn't sure yet if we can get all Grisco weapons or not. I'm still hoping we can get any of them, but we shall see. Not much is known about Big Run at the moment, except that it shall be on Wahoo World and Salmonids will act strangely, as they can spawn from gushers, most likely on any wave unlike on normal stages that they come from water, and we could have additional surprises that I will make sure to create videos about when the time comes. What we all need to know about Big Run is that rewards for it shall be calculated based on your best singular shifts, where you collected the most golden eggs with your coworkers together, and depending on the threshold they'll give us, you'll be able to work for different types of Kohazuna statues from Wahoo World. This activity is called overfishing in Salmon Run community, and the aim is to collect as many golden eggs as possible during a single shift and push the game to its very limits. To make sure we are all prepared for Big Run, I am planning a short preparation series that will be released this week before Big Run that will introduce you to the essentials, so stay tuned and you'll be ready. Super excited to play on this new map, and I'm still hoping that Nintendo has some surprises for us with the event we don't know about, but we shall see. But that is it for now with Salmon Report episode 11, a fantastic week to look forward to, and I'm super excited for at least 2 of the shifts to explore, and I might even try to go for another 999 if time allows. You know the drill, everyone. If you have further tips or questions, definitely let us know in the comment section so we can answer and help each other. But most importantly, look forward to the Big Run preparation series this week. Thank you so much for tuning in for another Salmon Report. Good luck on your shifts this week, and I'll see you all the next time. Bye bye.